Alright, listen up. Recently, I learned something very important. With great power comes great responsibility. That is true. The power that was put into my hands, I knew since a long time that it will be my job to balance two scenarios: destruction and creation. I knew since a long time that it will be difficult and that there will be people who will get in my way. Knowing that, I prayed to the divine to humble me when it's necessary. I prayed to the divine to help me balance it out. And I prayed to the divine to punish me when I overstep myself. So I made a deal with the spirit. I made a deal that spirit will help me balance it out. And whenever I overstep myself, I'll get an ass whooping. The spirit will whoop my ass double time, or even triple time. I knew that there will be a payment to pay, and I'll have to give something away. Every time when I call judgment, I have to suffer for it. And that's the sacrifice that I have to make. The judgments that I made, the pain that I experienced, knocked me out for almost 2 days unconscious. And even though pain doesn't faze me, the authority and the power that I was given is nothing to play with. The Hopi elder mentioned that I will almost destroy myself in the process. So I decided that in order to balance this out, I have to gain more wisdom. I have to make a better plan. And I have to grow. In the meantime, my focus will be solely on love and empowerment. And that's why today I will speak about the anointing, how it functions and what it actually is, and about gold. And when it comes to judgments that I made, try to control me and push me deep into my shadow once again with your witch tricks. And decapitation will be the least of your problems. Capiche? All the judgments, the sentences are revoked. This supreme punishment will be only for the most wicked ones. Until I figure this out. And in the meantime, I will let the scrubs wither and rot from their own karma. Now we have this off the table, so let's focus on the anointing. When a child is born, a baby, an infant, it has a tiny spine, and its energetic system is unfiltered and unblocked. The energy flows like through a divine being, regardless of the capacities of the vessel in that stage of development. The soul present in the baby is an enlightened soul. Later on, as child begins to develop, The social programming comes, parental programming, educational programming, media programming, and it's all starting to filter and close the chakras, which puts the seals on the chakras. As the memory develops, the baby starts to memorize everything and in the same time forgets its own enlightenment. The very little of the anointing that's in the baby's spine, as the spine grows and stretches, the anointing stretches as well. So it becomes a very, very thin line when it comes to sexual development and the first stages of sexual processes within the vessel. As the human continues to indulge in sexual activities at a young age, it is losing the gold from the anointing, the very little gold that it had. Once it's out of the system, the young people start indulging in all sorts of dark activities. That's when they're opened to the demonic entities. That's the moment they're most vulnerable to develop traumas that will prevent them from further healing. The anointing is made out of mercury and gold. The mercury is produced once every moon cycle, which is almost twice a month in the current calendar. You may ask, where do the mercury comes from? We breathe the air into our lungs, and the blood flow goes into the pineal gland. Pineal gland is an organ in the body that's second right after the heart with the highest blood flow. And mercury, the production of mercury and melatonin is the sole reason for that priority in the blood flow. As I mentioned in my previous teachings, the melatonin is an enzyme that's necessary for regeneration, which is why we can survive without eating and drinking for so long. Just by breathing the air, we can continue to regenerate our vessel for some time. Now, what the pineal gland does, 1 month a cycle of breathing in and collecting the minerals from the air. Pineal gland is a gland that's responsible for putting them together. And when the moon is in your sun sign, that's when the seeding of that mineral happens and Mercury is born. Mercury has very specific tension, is so strong that its own atoms are pulling each other to itself. Now you might heard that mercury is a toxic liquid metal at room temperature. It is toxic when mercury poisoning happens, and mercury poisoning happens usually when people who use it to pull the gold from the gold ore are inhaling the fumes of the mercury while boiling it out to separate from the gold. Other than that, mercury has been swallowed in form of medicine. It can be touched with a hand for as long as you don't have any deep cuts or anything like that. It's been demonstrated many times before. As I mentioned before, mercury is liquid at room temperature. Aside of two other metals, it has the lowest temperature of boiling. So what happens once the mercury is produced in a pineal gland? The mercury is holding itself and it's separated from the tissue, from the walls of the gland by magnetic field. And as it travels along the left channel of the spine, it continues to be separated from the walls of the tissue with magnetic field. So as mercury travels down the spine in the left channel, it gets to the very bottom, and there it enters the central channel, where it can be combined with gold in a process called amalgamation. Normally there is no chemical reaction when amalgamation process happens, and most of you probably know this process already, especially from your teeth fillings. When mercury is treated with electrical energy, it starts spinning. The Nazis were experimenting with mercury to create a flying saucer, because mercury, being treated with enough energy, spun fast enough, causes the matter around it to lose density, to lose weight. And yes, that means that in 50 years, it's very possible people will be levitating or even flying, those most devoted to God. Now, in order for mercury and gold to combine inside the central channel of the spine, there has to be healing done. As the seals, chakras, are being broken down, it opens like a lock, like a key lock, and the anointing acts like a key, and it can grow. You cannot replenish mercury. The pineal gland replenishes mercury once every moon phase. The only thing you can replenish is gold. So, what actually is gold, and how do you replenish it? Gold is nothing else than a sunlight converted into earth, converted into mineral, under certain circumstances. Gold exists on all of the frequencies simultaneously, and gold is a purifier. It does not tolerate negative polarity. It always transmutes negative polarity into positive polarity. And this is very important why I'm teaching about this today. Gold is a superconductor, and it was always known as a powerful antiseptic. People have worn gold jewelry for medical and spiritual reasons. Now, when I speak about eating gold, I don't mean eating gold in its molecular form, but eating gold in its single monoatoms. That's found all in natural foods, plants especially. You cannot eat gold from animals, because that means you would have to eat their spines. The only place the monoatomic gold is used is inside your spine and in your sexual juices, which are also made from melatonin, which also uses monoatomic gold. You cannot replenish gold by eating crab, and you cannot replenish gold by eating animal products. You cannot replenish gold by eating animals. You can only replace gold by eating plants, and there are very specific plants that have a much higher ratio of monoatomic gold in it than the other plants. And then there is the only product in the world that is an animal product that contains the largest quantity of monoatomic gold. And the garbage people of this planet know about this, which is why they want to get rid of bees and create fruits and vegetables that will grow without seeds, so they can grow only once, so they can monopolize production of food when there are no bees around. Honey and pollen is what contains the highest quantity of monoatomic gold found in nature. Another way of consumption of gold is through salts. Salt is a mineral that contains monoatomic gold and what is called white gold. The Egyptians, ancient Kemetians, they knew that gold is in the salt, which is why there was a high quantity of dead sea salt being imported, brought to Egypt for the pharaoh to consume and stored in the pyramids. The last form of gold, which is the most powerful and the most potent, it can only be created by a specific process which Egyptians knew, the Kemetians. And that form of gold can be produced only by the pyramid. But the pyramid was desecrated and its functionality is now broken, which means that kind of gold will never be able to be produced again. There are less efficient methods of breaking gold into monoatoms by the use of magnetic fields, and certain people around the planet researched that and had a success with these methods, but it's still very, very difficult to get. You're going to find a lot of fake ormus all around the internet. So if you're looking for pure monoatomic gold and white gold on the internet under the name ormus, you have to be careful because you will be most certainly tricked. Most of the products are fake. The best investment is honey, pollen, a couple of plants which I will mention another time, and it's really worth to import dead sea salts if you can. Find a consumable dead sea salts which are purified, and you will be able to use it like a normal salt for everything you do. I have few other sources of monatomic gold, but I'm not going to share them now. I will leave certain things for later because I will want to expand on this. But let's come back to the anointing now. So when you consume the monoatomic gold, it goes through your digestive system and through the blood flow into the pituitary gland. And from there it goes in the right channel of the spine, taking into account that you're on your healing journey and you're unsealing your seals, unsealing your chakras, unblocking them. If there is a way for it, it will grow. The mercury will soak in the gold, the monoatoms, and it will expand. That's the only way to expand it, through gold. You have to repeat this process diligently, and staying celibate is necessary for a certain amount of time, or at best forever, if you want to complete your anointing in this lifetime. Once the anointing is completed, the gold that's combined with the mercury is forever purifying that mercury. Without the gold, if a human being reaches certain age, at certain age, the mercury fills up the entire spine. And if it's not purified by gold, if someone did not start their healing journey by that time, their mercury turns black, their chakras become black holes. And these people become vampires, energy vampires, narcissists. They are opened for demonic possession, and they're draining someone else's life force whenever they're in their vicinity, because they don't have their own life force. Their own life force is consumed by the entities that occupy their vessels. So gold, as a purifier, as a transmuter of negative into positive, it continuously purifies mercury and it makes you immune to any negative emotional states, any negative thoughts. It all is transmuted on the fly. Sometimes, depending on what it is, it takes a little bit more time, but gold is always continuously working towards purifying you. And as you complete your anointing, the bridge from the root to the crown is completed. And then any light that you take in through your eyes into optic thalamus is automatically filling up all the gold and mercury inside the spine, creating a light bridge. And that light continuously expands until you reach the highest possible frequency for human flesh, which is that of purified light body. The more light you take in, the more you grow and the higher your frequency. Once your anointing is completed and you're continuously transmuting negative into positive, let's say this is the moment when you start becoming immune to most of witchcraft. It will still work on you, but it will fade very quickly, and even the most powerful dark arts will take you few hours to transmute. That's also the time when you get the most angelic protection, if that's what you're looking for. Now you can see where all of this is going. First stage is opening the chakras to allow the flow. Second stage is the anointing building up through open flow of the chakras. The third stage is when the anointing is complete, the bridge is created, and then you start developing the light inside of you automatically, and your frequency grows from the highest solfeggio frequency up to the 144,000 hertz, which is the purified light flesh. That's a long journey, but that's the work done, and it happens automatically. It does not mean that there is nothing more to learn. It just means that you're on the right way and everything will become very easy. This is what it means to be chosen. Who is the chosen? The chosen one is the one who chooses himself, and by that, he chooses God. He chooses divinity. You can either indulge in the lower nature and pleasures of the flesh, or you can self-sacrifice for the greater good, develop your anointing, and reach your divinity. All that spiritual talk in those communities about transitioning to a fifth dimension, which is light, by the way, the consciousness, the dimension of consciousness. All that talk does not mention that you have to self-sacrifice, choose yourself, and develop anointing, as that is the crucial part of transitioning to a fifth dimension. You have to become the light to transition into the higher dimension of light. If you don't become the light, you're being deceived, or you're deceiving yourself. Now, the fun thing about the developing anointing is that when the anointing is full, the bridge is completed. The gold is mixed up with Mercury, which, by the way, Mercury is responsible for the lower mind, the mind of the planet, the spirit in the atmosphere. And gold is responsible for the higher mind, the cosmic mind, the mind of the stars and the sun. Now, if you combine those both together, as I mentioned in my teachings before, the lower mind becomes the higher mind, is becoming transcended, and you don't have any more unwanted chain of thoughts. You're in full control and you're simply flowing. And in that state, the dominion over your own mind is important. When there is more gold, there is more energy that is channeled into the Mercury, and when there is more energy channeled into the Mercury, your monadic field, or should I say magnetic field, is spinning faster, and when it's spinning faster, it's stronger attraction, more powerful electromagnet. What does that mean? Obviously, law of attraction starts working as it's supposed to be. And for that sole reason, it's important to master your mind, to transcend your mind from lower to higher, to not indulge anymore in the pleasures of the flesh. Otherwise, if you would have that power of manifestation and still have uncontrolled thoughts, and for example, give in to temptation, you would manifest, create chaos. And if everyone would create that chaos around, we would have a massive chaos, and we would never be able to put everything together into order. That's something to think about. I'm going to expand on gold in the future, but for now, this understanding is important. So, you have empaths who are completely empaths, and then you have narcissists who are completely narcissists, and there is nothing in between. So these two together will always be paired for lessons. The empath needs to learn from narcissist to be more selfish, and the narcissist needs to learn from empath to be more compassionate. Empath is someone who is developing the anointing with the gold included. A narcissist, a complete narcissist, I'm not talking about people who are somewhere in between, because right now I want to speak about the extreme cases. A complete narcissist is someone who does not have any gold in their spine, who does not have any light in themselves. Like in Matthew 26, the light that is in them is the darkness instead of light. And because the anointing is full of Mercury only, it's becoming very dark. The darkness becomes powerful. That's as simple as it can be told. When you don't want to let go of this pattern, and when you don't want to let go of what doesn't serve you, even if you see it doesn't serve you anymore. When you stay together with someone who does not develop anointing, who does not want to heal, does not want to start healing, someone who you can see is exhibiting signs of demonic possession, or at least very powerful demonic presence, you will slowly lose your life force. No matter how abundant you are, they will feed on you. If you live with someone like that in the same house, you're in a marriage, in a relationship, or whatever, you will see all these signs. You will wake up next to someone like that, always tired. No matter how long you sleep, you will be always tired, and they will be always using your energy to go through their day. They will suck the life out of you until you have no more energy and you fall into depression. The most important lesson for every empath in this reality is to learn to be selfish, learn to release the toxic people from your life. You can choose to sacrifice yourself, obviously, and stay with them, and then you will have to learn the same lesson in the next lifetime. Or you can choose to separate yourself and feel the freedom and stay in your own energy. Feel how your life force will come back to you. When you will regain it, the depression will leave. You will regain your zest for life. And with releasing that which does not serve you, your blessings will come. As in every special episode, so in this one, I'd like to give you a self-experiment. This one is about observing how the Mercury moves across your spine. In order to be able to observe this with precision, a period of water fast is needed. This whole exercise revolves around water fasting 2.5 days before the moon is in your sun sign in tropical placement. The process of creation of Mercury begins somewhere between sidereal and tropical sun sign placement. Starting 2.5 days before your tropical sun sign placement will put you in state of ketosis right on time. Once you're in state of ketosis, your perception will be clear, and then I want you to observe what's happening around your spine. And you will observe the chills. Notice which direction do the chills go. Do they go from bottom to top, or do they go from top to bottom? You will notice that the chills go also across your limbs as the Mercury travels down. Remember, a water fast 2.5 days before the moon is in your sun sign. Plan ahead and make it safe. Enjoy your observations.